Hi there, it's Kim from Alterknit Universe, and today I'm going to talk to you about the anatomy of a stitch. When you get stuck on a project, most of the time, if you're a beginner, it's because you're not quite sure, am I on a knit row or a purl row? Is that a knit stitch? Where does my rib begin? So today I'm going to hopefully help you tell the difference between what a knit stitch looks like and what a purl stitch looks like. So, in front of us here, we have a piece of ribbing. It is a knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. These here are the knit stitches. They are big, fluffy, and they look like V's. I'll just point that out here. So this is the top of the V, coming to the bottom of the V, coming to the top of the V. And they kind of sit in each other. So that's a V, that's a V, that's a V. So this stitch here is one knit stitch, and you can see it's kind of like a V. So if we look at our knitting here, we've got one V, two V's, but then we don't have another V until way over here. So what is this mess? Well, these are the purl stitches, but here's a top tip. If you turn your work over, they turn into V's, and that's because a knit stitch is just a purl stitch but from the other side. To demonstrate that, I'm going to go ahead and do a knit stitch, because we've got, so hopefully by the end of the video you'll be able to tell immediately that we need to knit. The way that I like to see is because there's a scarf around this guy's neck. So if this stitch here is a neck, then we have a scarf wrapped around his neck there. And you can see the two tails at the front coming down into the V. But this guy here, his neck, he has a noose around his neck. And that's because the other part of the scarf is on the other side. So on this side, it looks like a knit stitch. It's got the scarf, but it's coming around on this side like a noose. And if we look at this first stitch, here's his scarf. And where's the noose? You got it, on the other side. So if we turn it over, we can see that there's the noose here. What a lot of people sometimes refer to as bumps, so this would be a bump, this would be a bump, and then this is a V, and a V, or a plane. That's what some people call it. So now hopefully you can look at this and you can see, oh, those are two bumps, those are two V's, two bumps, two V's, two bumps, two V's. Now we always read our knitting to get started. We always look at the knitting that's facing towards us. So this stitch here has a little scarf. So that's the V. So that means we're going to knit. And when we knit, we're actually creating the bump or the noose on the back of the stitch by going around the needle like that. That's how I like to think of it. When we create the stitch, what's actually creating the bump is that this stitch on the row below is being pulled over and is now sitting with the bump on the back. And when we do a purl, it's exactly the same. So we bring our yarn to the front, exactly the same but backwards. We put our needle in this way, and now we're going to make the bump on the front side because we're purling. So we're making the bump here like so, and you can see that there's a bump. What's actually happening is we are creating a new stitch, and this bit is being brought over, and that's what's actually creating the bump. But the way that we knit makes it feel like, because we've got the yarn at the back of our work, that's where we are creating the bump. So we're creating a bump on the back because we're knitting two. So we've just made two flat stitches on the front and two bumpy stitches on the back. Cool. So we can continue on like that, and as homework you can sort of try and forget the pattern that you're working with, like knit 2, purl 2, and you can just look at each stitch as it comes and say, okay, this is a rib, so I'm going to be doing exactly the same stitch that I was doing on the row below. So I know that this is a bump on the front of my work, so I know that the yarn has to be at the front of my work, and that's where I'm making the bump, which means we're doing purl stitches. And then I can do that exactly the same thing for the knit stitches. So this lesson actually comes with homework, you guys. I want you to go practice your bumps, your knits, and your purls. So we stopped on 2 purl. What does that mean when we turn our work over? It means that we're going to be starting on 2 knits, because every knit stitch is just a purl stitch backwards. I hope that helped. Remember, if you're working on a different kind of pattern, like a moss stitch, you may be looking for a different kind of effect, but you should now be able to tell what you did on the row below. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you let us know if you like this video by liking it.